So, so I wanted to do it. So first of all, can I get somebody to take notes and somebody to time me?
I can do notes.
Thanks.
I can do time.
So I'm Derek. I work here at DHF. My website is derekfields.is. I'm more of a hardware guy than a coder guy. Just hardware grabs my attention more, holds my attention more. So I thought it'd be a cool idea to try to combine software and hardware. I think using like the physical web is something that can like merge those two worlds together and like keep my interest in software. So I felt like so the physical web is topic, and I just wanted to like talk about that a little bit, and then we can probably go into like how we can better utilize like physical objects in our world, and like have them broadcast a website, how we can like maybe interact with the website, and what devices can allow us to do that. So one of the devices that I use is called the Node MCU, which is a ESP86 microcontroller board. I have it. So this is the Node MCU microcontroller board, and my idea was the Node MCU microcontroller is it's an expressive based microcontroller board. The project that I plan to do tomorrow is use this board to broadcast a website, and the website will have an A-frame virtual world on it. And I want to connect like light sensors up to the microcontroller and use this accelerometer to affect that virtual world. And the way I plan on doing that is by using Ajax. And so I thought that would be like a really cool project to like get experience with like messing with the physical web. Google has this really cool website that outlines like what the physical web might do and what it might look like. One cool thing that I saw on here was like there was a lost dog that broadcasts a Bluetooth beacon, and the beacon broadcasts this URL and gives you more information about the dog. So I think that was a cool idea. I mean, I think if they use a board like the ESP8266 or the ESP32, they could use the beacon, the Bluetooth to broadcast the beacon, and they could serve up they can serve up the website using the ESP. That way, if a user doesn't have internet, then they can also still get information on the dog because the information will be stored onto the web server. Another cool thing with the physical web is that you can possibly control like toys or some type of appliances. This is using so the toy in this example is broadcasting a URL, and that it brings them to a website that uses web Bluetooth, I should say spec, and that'll show up controls where when you press a button, the phone is paired to the Bluetooth of the toy, and like you can control the toy using your phone, using the interface on the phone.
When did iOS get the ability to do that? I thought it was only on Android, like showing the nearby stuff built into the phone.
I've heard that's been going on for at least like 2 years now, I think.
I totally missed that.
Yeah. I
So
thought
you
it
can turn that into something that can just pop up on my phone when it's nearby?
well, this doesn't. The ESP8266 doesn't have Bluetooth, but the next
okay.
generation of it does. The ESP32 has Bluetooth, so you could possibly broadcast a beacon with the next generation of this. And here's another one. This is just like controlling lights using the Bluetooth beacon one.
This is a Google project. That's interesting.
Small world story. Scott, the guy behind this, has been to several IndieWebCamps.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's shown a lot of the stuff at
That's funny.
IndieWebCamps before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is very off the grid. Like it doesn't rely on
Internet.
QR code that you scan
Yeah.
that directs you to a web service that's
Well, it
hosting
can.
an experience. It can do
Like
that.
the beacon stuff can just broadcast a public URL, but I like
Yeah.
the idea of the
That
device
it's hosted
serving the website itself too.
Self-hosted. And showing you the control interface as opposed to like Spherio or GoPro or like a DJI drones where you have to get an app, you have to be connected to a service, you have to authenticate and authorize. And I think
And
it's all
I think possibly if since Wi-Fi, it has its limits with like range and stuff like that and power. So if we can possibly use like some type of some type of radio frequency type of technology that has a longer range and pair it with the technology that's already on these types of boards, then we can get even more range. And that would be a great application for something like you said, like the DJI drones and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool as well. So, do you guys have any ideas of how the physical web can be implemented in other areas in life?
Well, so I have a cocktail making robot at home that I built, and it's a combination of Arduino and Raspberry Pi. It does not require the internet to work, so it's kind of along these lines, but there's basically just like a poster on the wall next to it that says connect to this Wi-Fi and go to this website address, bar.bot, which is before .bot was a real TLD, and that pulls up the menu, and then you can make a drink, and you're talking directly to the device right there. There's no internet required. It's menus turned off the device, your phone's talking to the thing. But I would love to do little beacon things, so you can just be nearby and it pops up, right?
That'd be cool too.
That'd be super cool. So I use using Raspberry Pi for that because it's like you can install Ubuntu on it and be in a relatively normal Linux environment. I assume that is much more limited. Is that true? You can still serve a web page off of that.
Yeah.
What are the constraints within that kind of thing?
So the constraints are it's limited in memory. So you could possibly connect an SD card up to it to expand the memory.
Oh, so it could serve files off of the SD card, so you can put actual images and stuff on it. Does it has some sort of code execution environment on it? What do you write code in?
C++.
Okay, that's
and that's
not my style.
I pretty much use Arduino C.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think this can pretty much do everything your Raspberry Pi project can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that will get rid of a lot of the power cost of that project too, I think. So yeah, I mean I don't have a lot to say about this. I just seeing the examples of what people have done with broadcasting these web services and using Ajax to control the website itself. Probably can't hear this, but I can't find the example that I saw earlier. I'm not sure what this guy is doing with here. It looks like he has potential
nilai maksimum. Saya putar ke arah positif, kemudian saya klik update, klik tombol update, klik. Kita tunggu sebentar. Iya, masih menunggu. Tergantung apa? Kalau kelihatan di sana. Kemudian lihat gauge. Kemudian
Internet of Things. And the product I work on, day job, is a platform for people to connect devices and track all their data. But I'm curious about if IndieWeb has a TimeSeries database guideline or idea for, like, I'm going to record a temperature every minute forever. Are people just doing, like, throw it in Cassandra, throw it in MongoDB?
I do some of that myself. I've carried a GPS tracker phone app on me since 2008. So I have a lot of data. And it is sometimes it's a point every second. If I'm moving,
If you're, like,
it records.
riding a bike and it,
Yeah.
Is it publishing based on, like, movement?
Yeah, it's sort of based on it's iOS black box magic. So it's you get data as it's relevant.
That
Essentially.
is not a term of art. That's your description
Yeah.
of.
But yeah, when I'm moving, it records 1 point every second, so you get a pretty detailed track.
Yeah.
And the way I've handled that is I put it all into text files because they're easy to manage.
Yeah. And throw it up on your personal.
It's on my web server, and then I could back it up using rsync, and I can they compress nicely. But it's basically it's this format that I've been using, which is a file per day, where each line is a record. So the first part of the line is the timestamp for the data point, and then the next part of the line is a JSON encoded data, and then a new line for the next record. Which means, because it's one file per day, in folders per year, month, day, none of the folders end up with that many files in them.
Yeah.
And a file can only have at most 86,400 lines, because that's how many seconds there are, and it's not actually that big.
Because that's not terrible. That's like
even if your records are
megabytes.
a megabyte each, which almost nothing is, that's still only an 86 megabyte file, which isn't even that big.
Yeah.
Or sorry, if you were actually 1 megabyte records, that'd be 86 gigabytes. But a megabyte in JSON is huge.
Yeah, that's a ton of. If you're just GPS points.
GPS points, like they're not efficiently stored because it's literal JSON numbers.
You zip them.
But even that ends up being like 500 bytes per record at the most.
Yeah.
So these files are not huge. They're like
That's not bad.
a couple megabytes each, which is fine. But that's basically my preferred format for that kind of time series stuff, just because of it ends up being very practical and
You can do anything with it.
yeah.
What device was this project running on?
Over the years the device has changed, but right now it's an app I wrote on my iPhone, and all it does is it just makes HTTP requests with batches of data up to the server, and the server takes the data, stores it on disk.
There you go.
So
That's
it also means offline tracking works because I can be offline, and the phone is just collecting locally, and then as soon as it gets back on the internet, it pushes everything back up.
Yeah, that's good because it also would kill if you're trying to push it every second.
Right. Yeah, that would totally kill the battery. And the other reason that format works is because it is append only. That is a terrible format for like trying to update records.
Oh yeah.
But since
Most of this Internet of Things time series data, like a funny thing is on our platform we allow data manipulation. Like you can go back and change a data point or delete it, which as soon as you do that cuts out a huge number of hosted or self-hosted or industrial strength time series logs, because they're like write only. You could write 1 million records a second, but you can't edit any of them.
yeah.
And we're like,
But that's one of the things is like that's with certain constraints you can do things that are fast or easy to manage. And,
yeah.
And the trade-off is you don't edit it or whatever. But yeah, so this format's been working well for me for GPS logs. It's actually also the format we use for the IndieWeb chat logs now. So that chat.indieweb.org, because it's IRC logs, it's append only, and there's a set of these files per channel. So it's just like the main channel is just one of these chunks of files. The other channel has nothing to do with those set of files, and there is no database required for generating that web page now. So if you go to chat.indieweb.org and you see the whole log, that's just reading one file. And you go back a page, it's reading the previous day's file.
That's why it doesn't adjust when you adjust your time zone.
Well, that actually I had it adjusting when you adjust your time zone, and it was breaking for a different reason, which is that when the contents of the page depends on your view of it, you can't send people a permalink anymore within the page, because the page is time zone dependent.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to actually undo that feature so that the pages had consistent data.
That makes sense.
And
for the
now
permalinks.
the times that are shown are localized, but so you might end up with a partial day, previous day local time at the top, depending on your time zone. Anyway, time zones are fun.
Oh God. No, they're not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this board also can run Mongoose OS, which is like an IoT like runtime platform type thing. So with Mongoose OS, it's like so it can run JavaScript and C++. And originally this board came with Lua. It also I know it can also run MicroPython as well. So you have a bunch of different options of like what you can program on it.
Derek, have you done any of, like, there's a ton of data being harvested in this room, just webcams alone. I'm curious if you've done any of worked with anything here, set up any of because there's also a lot of Raspberry Pis controlling separate printers and stuff too, right?
I haven't worked with any of that. I only started working here in September.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so.
What are you interested in? What do you think would be a project? I mean, other than this, are there other projects you have in mind that?
I'd love to get the kids to like repurpose old laptops and like turn them into like cool little like home theater setups. You know, like they can use the laser printer to cut up wood or like whatever, or like plexiglass, whatever you can cut with laser printer, and use that as like an enclosure, and rip out the guts of the laptop. Maybe do a little rewiring of the ports to create their own little custom case for like a home theater or like a simple emulation machine, gaming emulation machine. I think that'd be cool. Yeah. I mean,
like in the physical computing. In this
yeah.
world.
In terms of that, yeah, I think that'd be cool if we can like bring up the data of each print that's going on, like how like the temperature of the nozzle of the 3D printer, and like maybe have like a virtual rendering of like how complete the thing is.
Yeah, because that seems like the perfect place for this physical web stuff.
Right,
you walk
right.
up to the machine and it's doing something, but I don't know who asked it to do that. I don't know where it's at.
Right.
I don't know when it's going to be
Like
done.
what class is this for?
Yeah,
that'd
like
be
especially
great. Yeah.
as working, like to be able to walk up, get close to a machine, instead of, because I see those ones back there and they have bigger screens on them, and this thing looks like these two have giant screens on them, where you got to connect a computer to it, but like most people are carrying a supercomputer in their pocket at this point. If you can just walk up and this is your like a tricorder style. What I'm in this room filled with cool stuff. What is it?
Can you lock that? Did you lock that already? That idea?
Do what? A little bit, yeah. I mentioned you build the Wi-Fi controller with Bluetooth LE beacon, but yeah, I haven't written exactly what he said just yet.
as long as you get Tricorder. And
What is a tricorder?
that's the Star Trek.
Oh, I never watched Star Trek.
Oh man, Star Trek.
I was a
Next
Star
Generation.
Wars person.
Whenever it's a kind of a MacGuffin, because whenever they're in a tight spot, they're like, we can't reconfigure the drive module, we're stuck. And Jordy will be like, I'll take the tricorder and reverse the polarity of the flux matrix. And it's got a thing, and he like bleep, 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 and he just like he reversed the flux matrix, and then somebody broke their bone, and they're like, I'll fix that. Bloop, 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 bloop. It's the sonic pencil. Is that the
Sonic screwdriver.
Sonic screwdriver?
Yeah.
Right. Doctor Who just goes all the way and is like, it's magic. Fix this thing. So it's the same thing, but they like are always looking at it and what's this? Oh, it's Klingon in origin. It's at least a billion years old.
I think it'd also be cool if like the physical web applied to cars, like get a diagnostic, like instant diagnostic, like what your cars, how your car's going. You know.
Now I've seen some, because I was just looking at this, arguing with somebody online, relevant, but all cars have the information sockets, the ODB2 ports. And if you got a car and you look like under your steering wheel, there'll be like a thing that looks like a socket, and you can go on Amazon and buy a thing that fits in it. I don't know if it's self-powered by that plug, but it broadcasts in Bluetooth, and then you get an app that talks to it, and it's not magic, it won't tell you everything, but it'll tell you you've got an check engine light, it'll tell you what the check engine light is. I'm driving a Honda Fit, check engine light, code 97, that means my oxygen sensor needs replacing. So they're getting some of that, and it's got some of that hacky feel. Yeah, that's another big place.
I don't see a lot of examples of where like you use the web to control the physical object though. Like I only seen it like in like toys and stuff like that. So that'd be interesting to like see what that can apply to that application.
Mm-hmm. Getting more practical. I also am baffled by people who put computers into refrigerators instead of just some sensors. Put a sensor network in the fridge. I get that, but like I got a lot of computers that I already really like.
Right.
Yeah. Who are these people that were asking for a tiny? Thank God I can get Netflix on my dishwasher.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of the Android of Things thing? It's where it's pretty much like a stripped down version of Android that you can install on single board computers like the Raspberry Pi 3, and you can write your own little apps to control the GPI ports on the Raspberry Pi 3 and like create whatever you want. I think a really great alternative to that is a microcontroller board called the IO. It's pronounced yo-yo, but it's basically just that, an IO board. So you can write like a normal Android app on your phone or whatever, and just like use the API to control the IO ports on the IO device.
Yeah, it's just like a wireless hardware extension.
Yeah.
We've just started selling. I mean, a lot of people just like it's a product now. AIY, which is Google produced hardware kit that I think it just kind of snaps onto a Raspberry Pi and does. Their demo application is like a basic facial recognition app that tells if you're smiling or frowning and makes a button light up one way or the other. But it does it all without sending data back up to Google.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Google Home. So it's like they're starting to shift. They're starting to, like, when Google does this kind of stuff, it's like there's clearly somebody inside the system who's like, maybe we don't have to take everybody's data all the time. Like this gentleman you're talking about, like, this is a side project that leaked out. But it's very similar, and like the kit is a cardboard box that like has a slot for the Raspberry Pi, has a thing for the camera, has a place to screw the button. It's like a big arcade button with a light on it, and then all the connectors. And so you get it and you fold it up, and then you can supposedly write your own software. But getting towards, because that's a whole other area that fits here and fits IndieWeb, is like I want a home assistant that I can talk to, but I don't want anything leaving the boundary of my network without my permission. I think we're not far away from that, which is good. I mean, other than like I carry this and I know this thing is listening to me. I know when I gave Instagram permission to use my microphone.
Oh, I denied that.
Yeah.
I said no microphone for you, Instagram.
I try to go through an audit every once in a while, but it's like, I really want to be able to take a video from Twitter app.
What are you planning on doing with that one right there?
So this was, I just remembered I had in my bag. This is a different board. It's a Wicked YSED, another Wi-Fi chip, very similar to the ESP8266, in that it does Wi-Fi and you can put code on it, and it's like hand wave. Like I actually, because my day job involves supporting devices like this and like that, a piece of code I wrote for somebody as a demo that ran on this or an ESP8266 from Arduino, depending on which board you had selected and what you had plugged in. But it does all the same things. And then the pins to do the I/O controlling stuff. I don't know what the trade-offs are. I could not tell you, but
I use Adafruit's IO platform for my hackathon project last year.
oh yeah?
Yeah. So we copied pretty much copied what's her name, Becky's turnstile backpack project, and we made it so that we made like 3 prototypes of that same project, and like we made it so that if like the bike party leader tapped left, either left or right, that signal would get sent up to Adafruit.com, and and then like everybody else's backpack would like
Do the same thing?
Yeah, do the same thing.
Oh, that's slick.
Yeah.
What were you using for the radios?
We were using ESP8266.
Wi-Fi?
Yeah, Wi-Fi. So like there had to be like
If somebody's phone was
yeah, my
that's
phone was
clever.
yeah, that's about it. So
Did
I wanted to be like some type of, that would only be like one person that's connected to Wi-Fi, and like maybe, and then like everybody else was just like in like a mesh network. And
Yeah.
so
That would be interesting. That's like I don't have more than 2 boards for any of it, but the low rod, the long range packet radio. There are a few different like packet radios. I don't know. It's like a piece of hardware. It talks on a frequency. It talks in this way. It's a black box. It sends packet data. So like in the end, you're writing a serial protocol on the wire that you control. But that's a way that you could have a Wi-Fi node connected to a phone. Although the phones will do stuff with like all the Bluetooth boards as like a if you have the right app, it will do the actual communication with the web, and you just send the signal and it forwards it, proxies it, and then another radio telling everybody else the same thing. Actually, you could skip the web altogether.
Yeah, you can skip the web altogether. Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
So, sorry, I have a totally change of topic thing, but
Go for it.
I mean, speaking of
that's
mesh
all right.
network stuff, I have this thing I want to do at my house. Once my house has a website, which is put temperature sensors and like door open close sensors in a whole bunch of different places, and just have it be sort of like always aware of the state of things inside, and then publish that to the internet. And the challenge I've had is there are like home automation systems for this, like SmartThings, for example, and SmartThings is their API is terrible to work with, so it's just not fun to write code for, and it's very limited.
Is it Samsung or is it
They
a
bought it.
standalone?
They bought it. Yeah, it was standalone before. But the other downside about that is that everything runs through their cloud. It's insane. Like if you want to have a motion sensor turn on a light, the motion sensor tells their cloud that it triggered, and then they run something and it sends a signal back down to your light. It's like, come on, really? And I don't agree with that model at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I can probably at least build like temperature sensor myself. That's like a pretty simple thing. But then I just started having a heck of a time finding like chips that were cheap enough that I could also were easy enough to use that I could put together for this. Because I basically want I want it to be USB powered so I can plug it into an iPhone brick so I can put them all over the place powered, or a battery that lasts forever, but that's hard. I'm fine hardwiring it. But I also don't want it to be like $20 per thing. So I want to be able to buy like 10 of them,
Yeah,
right?
the ESPs are super cheap.
So those,
So the problem is that like the chip itself is you can get one for like $2, but then you need a board to put it on.
Yeah.
And then you need to do the surface mount soldering onto a board, and the board's going to cost something. And you need the breakout pins, and then you need, well, now all of a sudden you've got this thing that's like this big, just for the tiny sensor.
So
and I just want the smallest thing without
yeah.
having to buy like a bunch of 50-cent and dollar parts.
How
And
much would you like pay for something?
I would like my ideal price point.
Yeah, for like one unit.
I would be willing to, I think, pay $10 to make the problem go away, and ideally $5. But like if someone was like, hey, this is a thing you can get for $10, and it is a temperature sensor that is connected, that does not require an internet service, I'd be like, okay, I will buy that for those.
Yeah, the ESP8266 as a base is built into a lot of other things, and Wemos is the one that I've seen recommended a lot.
Yeah, we use Wemos in the hack.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, the Wemos D1 Mini, and I think it's kind of an
But you want the
AliExpress.
sensors attached to the board already, though, right?
No, I'm okay like getting a little transistor package sensor and connecting it.
Okay.
Like I've used that one before. I forget, DS1802 I think is the chip. It's a 3-pin temperature sensor.
DHT22 is another that we sell a lot of. We include in our like IoT kit.
But like every time I try to go and do this, I end up. It either requires so many things that the package becomes so bulky, or it's just way too expensive because it's like.
Yeah. So like
Between all the different pieces you need to eventually get to put it together.
So like this as a, because I've looked at these, I haven't bought them yet to try them, but this is my bet for low cost. The D1 Mini, the brain, $5 a piece, and the temperature sensor $1.50.
Oh, as a breakout module.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd have to like sit down and do some soldering. That's your trade-off,
fine.
obviously.
Yeah. And then the other half of the picture is the software on it and like where to send the data. So like I want to keep the data inside my network, and ideally I want to be able to funnel everything into something that is running an actual Linux stack so that I can write software easier. So I basically want all the little thingies to be pushing data to a central hub. So like my ideal situation, I guess, would be a very small program that I can flash onto each chip where, like, I don't mind hard coding the address of the controller, the master one, into that program.
Yeah.
I don't need like an interface to configure it or something. But I can just like flash the program onto it. And I keep getting close to doing this, and it's something keeps stopping me.
Man, it's like totally. The one I've seen recommended the most is called Home Assistant.
Yeah.
Raspberry Pi 3. So we had a buddy here in Baltimore. He just moved to Portland, actually. I could give you his name. A guy named Mark Hewson. He started a hackerspace here. He and I and some other people, and he had like 24 of these things in his house, and they build them into surge protectors, and they build them into like straight power cables. So it's got like a plug on this end, a plug on that end, and in the middle this thing with a serial port. You put your programmer in it. You tell it what it is called. The thing you're talking about, where you flash it in a particular way. You tell Home Assistant what it's called, and now you have your lamp on a web page that you can reach from anywhere inside your home Wi-Fi network, which is where Home Assistant is really cool. Is they are going strong. Like, people are really working on it a ton, and it can also pull in. It can be your IFTT kind of thing where you can write Google Assistant configurations that it will listen, and you can make your Google Assistant control all your things, which I don't assume you have a Google Assistant, but
I actually have an Alexa.
there you go. The Alexa. They got Alexa in there too. So you can
yeah, I've started looking at the
cloud
docs for Home Assistant. David uses it, actually. It's
deeply nerdy.
Yeah.
But it's
But yeah, I
satisfying.
want all these little sensors of some sort, and like they don't even have to be Wi-Fi. You know, like it could be its own radio protocol that just talks to a base station.
Yeah, I mean that's where like the smart things. 'Cause smart things is its own.
It's all Zigbee. And
It's
XM, Z-Wave.
and it's probably custom whatever's, and they don't release the specs, and people reverse engineer. But
I read an article on this.
Oh, time check, by the way. We have 5 minutes.
On I forget what the exact name of the website, but it was like called Hacker News or Hackster or something like that.
oh, Hackster.io.
Hackster. No, it's not that. It's the one with like the black background and like they use green.
Oh, I don't know.
Phil talks about it a lot.
Oh, Hackaday.
Hackaday.
That's
it.
Yeah, they got a blog and
Yeah.
a big project.
There was an
site now.
article on Hackaday where this guy used a bunch of ESP8266s to monitor like his crop in the soil, and he uses a mesh network, and like the data just like propagates back to the like one.
I saw that, and each of the nodes. I was just telling somebody about that one because they were asking about battery powering those devices, and each of the nodes was battery powered with a solar panel charger or something like that, and it was all like soil, water testing, and quality sensing. This is totally in the silo, but these are the people who are paying me. This is my office temperature.
Oh, nice.
Top line is temperature and bottom is humidity. But you can see overnight my office, that room is uninsulated. So it gets down to 56, that's the lowest. And then I go in and work all day and turn on a space heater so it gets back up to about 70. But like you can see, this is the 1 month view. It's just like,
Oh, wow.
It's funny.
That's fun.
But it's cool to see. I don't do anything interesting with the data. I just look at it. And it tells me if the service is broken or if my device is broken. So it's useful in that way.
I think Mongoose OS might be a good solution for like the mesh network part of things. And, like you could probably build out your own little software for the Linux part of it, right? Like what they all report to.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think you could probably like install like Google IoT Core on the Linux end, and like they can report to that.
Yeah, it looks like their goal is write the software once, flash it a bunch of times, or write it and then subtly change it and flash it. Kind of like the Arduino environment is like, I've got one thing, I've got one program, I write it once. I think Mongoose is better fit or more intended for like a fleet of devices that are similar but slightly different and might need to change configuration in the field.
If you like, if you needed to like make a change to all of the devices, you can just like update that new firmware over the air through the network.
God, there's so many choices to make.
Yeah.
Anything that helps you cut through the choices is probably better than the best thing. What is that? Good and done is better than perfect, and never done. I forget how that saying goes. No, perfect is the enemy of done.
That sounds right.
Dang it. I think it was Albert Einstein who said that.
Well, just to end off things, I like the idea of like we have a supercomputer in our pocket already.
Yeah.
And we just need the devices or the things to just like upload what they need to upload, so we can just like view it or manipulate it, the physical thing. And I think 3D printers are a perfect like candidate for that type of stuff.
Yeah, it'd be fun to play with. And it's all really good fit for the IndieWeb thing because the data doesn't have to go outside of this network. It seems pretty part of the narrative, fits in to the worldview. Cool. Is that time? We're at like a time.
Yeah, just about.
Awesome.
Thank you, Derek.
This is a much better talk than my last talk. I really like pretty websites. He wasn't really that enthusiastic about it. It's alright. What do you guys think about pretty websites?
I like pretty websites. I like to be able to make websites I make pretty. I'm not super great at it.
I feel like not enough websites these days are pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Like Amazon.com isn't pretty. Facebook isn't pretty. Twitter is more prettier than those two, but could be better. I love how like YouTube is always constantly changing their interface.
Yeah, it seems to be getting better. I appreciate that when they went to HTML5 and made the videos scale nicely.
Mm-hmm.
That was very welcome. Yeah, I am a big fan of what Dropbox did recently with their design.
I haven't seen it.
I think it's actually Dropbox.design.
Oh yeah, that.
They did
was
a
interesting.
big rebranding. They just went for it, man.
Yeah.
They just were like, we're gonna do bright colors, just.
It's so simple. Like it gives them so much character.
Exactly. It took the font a minute to load, but I like this A-frame. I am curious about this.
Yeah, I want to put A-frame on his microcontroller and just like see how I can affect that virtual world.
So is yeah.
So you like put a link in the header and that'll load in like the A-frames, like I should say components.
So it'll pull.
You can like write.
It'll pull the big chunk of JavaScript from the web somewhere. So that would just be spitting updates to
the web browser on the phone or computer. And you can write A-frame just like you write HTML. You know, so it's going to use like Ajax to like update what other elements in the A-frame that I want to update.
Yeah, this is interesting. I like that. They got a glitch link. I've just started playing with glitch.